Hello and welcome back to Sam's on Wrestling. I am Baby Sam and this is Older Sam. He is so old that in a few years we can use him as a fossil fuel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's true. He's getting there.
Jesus. At least I'm not so young that if you flash someone in a park, they would get arrested.
Touche. Touche. Anyway, this is the Power Rankings.
This is Eve Torres. This is how you start an Eve Torres.
He wasn't ready for that one. I just felt like going after you this morning.
Wow. Wow.
We need more fossil fuels, Sam. You're getting there. Yeah. Anyway, we are talking about Eve Torres today. So here's how this works. We take different categories of a wrestler, 10 to be very specific. We rank each of those categories out of 10 individually. We come up with a score out of 100 each, combine them to create a score of 200, and we have categories. So we have the lower card, main event, mid card, tag teams, women, and we rank them and just see basically our rankings on each individual category.
So we're going to find out how Eve Torres does in our rankings, but forget about Eve Torres for a second. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to find out more, such as who's better, Candice Michelle or the Boogeyman?
The question that no one asked, yet everyone needs to know.
They want it now.
Yeah. So we are kicking things off with wrestling ability. And out of 10, Sam, what have you gone with for Eve
I tell you
Torres?
what, Eve Torres, I've struggled all across the board here because she was at the back end of me watching. So, I'd kind of stopped around this sort of time. So she's a bit more your sort of generation. And we haven't had one yet from this sort of generation because we had kind of Beth, who was kind of in the middle, and Candice, who's just round about Beth's time. So this is interesting. So, but the wrestling was all over the place at this point. Like, you had, 3 wrestlers. Like, Caitlyn, AJ Lee, I suppose, was also around this sort of time.
Even mainly Eve Torres'
Michelle
time.
McCool, I suppose.
Yeah, but then Caitlyn and AJ Lee came in a bit later.
Yeah, so she was kind of... I felt a bit sorry for her. She was kind of just on her own. It was just her and Beth just kind of working Kelly the entire time. So it's really tough to actually give her a score of wrestling ability. So I'm trying to be a bit more positive with you because I think she might not have been able to show more than she could. So I've gone for a 6 with Eve Torres. What about you?
That's exactly what I've gone for.
Yeah.
A 6. I think she was capable... And you have to look at it well. They didn't really train the women much back then.
And yet she shone.
She did, and they didn't give them much time either. They barely got any
3
time.
minutes max.
And, exactly.
The bathroom break. They were the bathroom break, which is the
true.
saddest thing. You think about they've main evented WrestleMania now multiple times, and that was the time when they got. Do you know it's amazing that the Bellas are to thank for that kind of getting away from that, because we can talk about the Revolution and all that stuff, but they literally were given 3 minutes and they ended a match after like a minute. And they got back going, why did you do that? And they were like, no one's watching, why do they care, sort of thing. And I was like, fair play, because I'm not a massive fan of the Bellas, but they sounded like they wanted to work. And I think if Eve had anyone vaguely to work with, she could do it. Like, she had a beautiful moonsault.
Yeah.
Gorgeous moonsault, which we'll talk about probably later, but like, back then, it was so hard to judge wrestling. So I think that's as high as we could go.
Yeah.
But I also think it's as high as we could go. So, 6.
Next, storytelling, and based on that point about the lack of time she gets, it's quite difficult to judge, I think. But what about you?
I've gone for 5 for that reason, because I don't think you can go any higher because there was no stories being told. I think she told more stories as a manager with Zack Ryder and stuff like that, but the stories were nonsense and awful and killed 2 characters at the same time. Killed Zack and really made John Cena look terrible for a while. I mean, he had the hate storyline with Kane happening at the same time. God, we have not talked about Eve at all.
No.
Who else? Okay, that's the game now.
Eve's power rankings. We're mainly talking
Who
about
else can we talk about in Eve Torres' power rankings?
John Laurinaitis.
Yes. Oh, God. Oh, she was his assistant.
Some of her best
Oh,
work.
my God.
I'm telling you now, some of her best work. I'm telling you now.
Oh, but as storytelling in the ring, I've gone with a 5, and the stories, I don't think they're much higher than a 5.
I'm probably being generous with a 6.
No, I can understand that.
But I'm being, a bit generous.
Yeah.
So next of all, I'm sticking with that. We have promo skills. Sam, what have you gone with for promo skills?
The thing is, alright, she did a couple of decent promos, but in reality, they weren't actually that good. I think because women weren't doing anything, anyone who could talk, like Michelle McCool being an example, was just heavily pushed and given that mic time, even if they weren't that good at it. So I look back in the stuff where she was doing her best work, such as with Teddy and Zach and all that lot. I still didn't like how she was speaking, and the script she had was terrible. Like, she had an awful script. And I thought she was just kind of really mid. I've not put her anywhere near higher tier or anything like that, even in the women's category. And I know that our rankings are a little bit different based on what category we're doing. So I've gone with a 6. I don't think she's any higher than that.
You're going to disagree with mine then. I've actually gone with an 8. Hear me out. So partly it's because
we do Carlito as an 8? You think she's a better talker than Carlito?
Hear me out. I'm partially ranking it based off of she's in the women's division at that point, so maybe I'm being a bit biased.
No, we have to take that into consideration, and we also rank the women kind of separately to the men because of how it works, sort of thing.
And nostalgia is a thing.
Yeah,
and this is very much my era.
Yeah,
and
you are a biased idiot.
Oh, of course, as are most of us. However, I think I'm really basing it off her heel work.
Yeah, which is what I've
when she was John Laurinaitis' assistant, she was very annoying, but in a good way.
I was in the middle of that though.
Again, I'm a kid, so I'm watching through a different lens.
I'm an adult.
At the time.
I'm an adult.
And maybe if I go back now and watch it, I have your opinion as well.
I'm intrigued to see if that has actually be the case because you haven't seen any of it.
Because I was watching it as a 12-year-old, thinking CM Punk was the coolest thing, which she was. But she was kind of on John Laurinaitis' side, and she was incredibly annoying the way she was treating Teddy. I've gone with an 8. Maybe it's biased nostalgia. I don't care. It's my ranking.
Your ranking,
not yours.
You stick
not
with
yours.
it. You stick with it.
I'm doing my chest.
I respect that, even in the wrongness.
So next we are going for look. Now this can be obviously physical appearance, but their attire, their presentation. What have you got on this, Sam?
6.
6.
Beautiful lady, gorgeous lady. Which they never actually made a thing, so I don't think you can necessarily use it in her look aesthetic, as it were. So her gear was nicer gear than a lot of the ladies had at the time, which was just the kind of the bra shorts type look, or the bra and small pants. But I didn't really care for it. I think, didn't she have like a thing in her hair as well for a bit? Big curly hair. I generally think she looked a little bit creator wrestler. On like a SmackDown like 2011 type game. So my 6 is mainly because I think she was beautiful. And I think she changed her look. Whereas a heel, I think she wore like the kind of the businessy suits with the glasses, which meant she was smart enough to think. And I liked that look as well. And I was there going, compare that to maybe someone like Lana, for example. So I've gone with a 6. I don't think she's any higher on look than 6.
Now this is where we really, from my point of view, get into the bias side of things.
Oh, really?
As an 11, 12-year-old, like Eve was one of my first like crushes.
Right. Oh, so we're doing libido, are we?
Well, no, it was not just because of that. Like, it's more. This is more based on her heel run where she like was wearing like the glasses and like she was like.
It was a really attractive look.
It's not even just the fact that it's attractive, which she was to 12-year-old me. But let's be frank. But it was more.
I feel sorry for you actually, because as much as I hate the way women was represented, let's say you were only caring about your libido as a boy, and I grew up in 2003, Torres and Sable and all that lot, and you're there going, she has a pantsuit, and I'm there going, I have bikini contest.
No, it was more like the carriage and all that.
Do you know what? Could we just put on a completely unrelated note? I know we've done about worst match types, but bikini contests. Yeah. How, if you were a woman in 2003, and I mean as a fan, what are you watching wrestling for?
Is it a match? Like, what are the rules of a match? Surely it's just a segment.
I believe Deborah won a women's championship via an evening gown match.
Joking.
Yeah, I think.
Well, no, isn't it? Do they not wrestle in?
It was an evening gown thing. I think she took her evening gown off, and that's why she won, because Shawn Michaels, I think, awarded her the title. My brain is skewing this slightly.
Insane.
I've now mentioned Deborah.
Shawn Michaels.
I'm getting so many other people in. This is my. Oh, I'm enjoying this. So where have you? Right. So your libido. Sure. Where have you ranked Eve on your libido?
I've settled purely because of nostalgia and bias on a 9.
Okay. Right. Fair enough.
On a 9, but it's more the fact that she changed it so quickly when she got on with John Laurinaitis.
Which I'm really thankful for.
It was a character thing of like she would just adapt, not have any principles, and just go with whoever she could suck up to and get for a position.
Did she need that though?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it later, but good grief, she was nothing before. Yeah. But yeah, okay, fair enough. His libido gives it a 9. The correct answer gives it a 6.
Entrance. I'm actually going to go personally with a 6.
Okay.
I think it's just a very meh entrance, like it's okay.
Can you remember the song?
She looks good to me. It's that. It's like, it's alright.
Look good to me. Yeah. I genuinely have no memory of her entering the ring.
That's the most damning statement.
It really is. And back then, the Divas, I say the word divas, had actually an entrance. It ran that sort of era, actually.
Yeah.
Had something that I would argue is memorable. If you think about the Bellas and Michelle McCool and, even Kelly.
It's memorable.
They actually they were better than they were like 5 years prior. So they actually were vaguely memorable. Hers, I've got nothing. I generally have nothing. I'm giving her a 5. I don't think she did anything going into the ring. So I'm going based on what she did as a heel. Because she did a little bit more kind of heel work going down, but there's not really much to talk about there, I think.
No, it's not the greatest.
5.
Now we are analysing their work as a heel. Sam, what have you got?
In the women's division in 11, she was one of the best heels, and she got heat. The low blow on Zack Ryder. Everyone was just like, again, everyone went like, for God's sake. But also everyone went, oh, that's coming. Like, she got in the ring and she's there going, woo. And you're like, she's a bad guy. She's going to cost him the match.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, there it is. Okay, she's cost him the match because she got in the way. Miz does the skull crush finale. Why wasn't he, the Miz, on the face team? Because he wasn't in the team for so long. That was his face turn. He could have literally joined Teddy Long's team and been the babyface on the team. And that would have been an easy turn, because he turned the year after, didn't he?
But do you want Miz as a face
No,
in general?
no, they hadn't done it yet at that point.
No, I know.
I'm saying that would have been the time. I just wanted to mention a different wrestler, so I've gone with the Miz.
That's what you did.
Booker T was in that match.
He was in that match.
Commentary, and suddenly Booker T's like, I'm going to fight for Teddy
Yeah.
Long.
Well, no, Mark Henry had his entire Hall of Pain run and was shoved into that match.
Oh, there was so many shoved into that match.
It was bad.
But as a heel, she's an 8. I actually liked her heel stuff. I think it was really good in the women's division. You compare it to other heels, and I'll tell you what, women before the Revolution, their heel stuff ain't that great.
It's not.
I was racking my brains going, who actually did good heel work? And, you've got Chyna, but I don't know if she counts the time she was doing her heel stuff. And then I was like, you got Trish, early Trish, and then you go, I've just mentioned probably the greatest women's wrestler of all time. Do you know what I mean? So for me, actually, when you quantify it with every the one who came from, I think it's actually very good. I've got an 8.
Yeah, I've got an 8 as well.
Yeah,
I think even though you can argue the storyline in which she became a heel was
awful.
rubbish and
awful.
ruined a lot of other people.
Oh, it killed Zack.
Yeah.
It killed Zack.
It absolutely killed Zack.
Do you remember when they did the kissing thing and Zack's just in a wheelchair in a brace, just...
Yeah, and then I just got thrown off, and that bump when it takes off the wheelchair.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's mental.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That bump's insane.
So,
but he married Chelsea Green, so who's actually winning?
Didn't they divorce?
No, they are still happily together.
Well, there you go.
Happily together.
He's
They're a good little pairing. So I think 8. I think
8. So now we're looking at their work as a babyface. Sam, why have you gone with a really meh score?
5.
Yeah.
She's the most meh babyface there's ever babyfaced a babyface. She didn't do anything. She said nothing. But she was the most over babyface around the time with Caitlyn. So you can't go low, because at the time she was practically the number one around the time for at least 6 months or something. So she had something going.
Yeah, and I've gone with a 6 as well, because
I went 5.
I think for that era,
not as well.
No,
I'm not having that.
Let me put this counterpoint. So I agree with everything that you said. She was one of the most over baby faces in that women's division, but she was also thought of highly enough to be put in that storyline with John Cena and Zack Ryder, the biggest storyline in the company. I'm not saying it was a good storyline.
In reality, she was turning heel, so she was a tweener. I wouldn't say that was her babyface run.
But she was over enough to be put in that spot where, she'd been Divas Champion a few times.
Yeah, she had, yeah.
And she was put in that spot and didn't look out of place being there.
No.
It was the storyline that was the problem. So I'm going with a 6. I think she was over, and she won it a few times, and she got some decent pops when she won it.
Yeah, she's the mare of
We're arguing out of how meh she was.
Yeah, I think she's more mare than you're merry.
Yes.
I think she's definitely more merry.
Yes. So next up, we are on the gimmick/personality side of the category. Sam, what have you gone with?
I've gone 6 because of her heel work. It's really small. The heel work, it lasts about a year because she does the 27 kind of turn by that point. Not 27, 28, pardon me. And then she's in a tag team the year after against Miriam Nunes and Kelly at 29, I believe.
Right.
And then that's kind of about it. So it's a very small run, so I don't think I can go massively highly. Because also after she's kind of done this thing with Zack Ryder, kind of about it. She was just kind of another heel on the roster. So I think 6 is fair because she has a terrible babyface gimmick. She doesn't have one. and then has a really good little heel run, but it doesn't last long. I wouldn't say it was. I would argue I wouldn't say it's what she's necessarily remembered. I don't think she's necessarily remembered, but for. But I think she's remembered more for the Zack Ryder thing,
Yes.
rather than work as a heel. So I've gone 6. I don't think you can go much higher than that.
I've gone with a 7 just because I think
I've gone with a little bit higher.
Yeah, it's the theme of this entire video because I think she had a bit of adaptability. I think she had a bit of a range.
She did, but is that really how good? She had no personality, really. So you're talking about her heel gimmick as an assistant, and it was fine.
I think it was quite a unique gimmick, and I think it brought a different dimension to, frankly, a pretty
Johnny Nitro had
dreary...
already been an assistant to like Eric Bischoff. It's not a new gimmick.
I didn't know that.
I just want to mention Johnny Nitro.
Just Johnny Nitro and Eric Bischoff.
I think he was called like Johnny like Spade at first, or something really stupid.
I didn't know this at all.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was quite an interesting gimmick.
That's how I got debuted before Eminem.
Wow.
With Melina and Joey Mercury.
Yeah, just get the counter going. So now we're going to see how many other wrestlers Sam can include in the over and draw category. How many wrestlers can you include and why?
Right. Okay. Here we go. I actually can't think of anything. Was she massively over? Was she a draw? She was never a draw. The women's wrestlers wasn't at that point. I've gone with a 5 because how over did she get? She got a couple of pops with the turn, but a turn's always going to get a pop unless you're Big Show.
You just haven't got it again.
But like, I don't think there was much overness to it, and I think you can tell, but it was still the bathroom break. So even though she kind of went above that and got out of the bathroom break section, she was still lumped into that, which is really sad because I reckon her and Caitlyn and her and AJ could have had a really good 12-minute match on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That would have actually, I think, got like 2 or 3 stars sort of thing. Not 2, 3 or 4 stars. I think it could have been really good. So I think she's a 5 over and draw.
Yeah, I've gone with a 6. So again, it's just that.
The Vito will win. The Vito will
just gets
win.
the extra 1 at the end. I think just because she wasn't a good few storylines and she was noteworthy.
Yeah.
Which is always upper echelon of women.
I've never seen so many 5s and 6s in my life than I have here.
You've always got to end with a finish unless you kick out like 1,000 times in NXT. But we're not going to kick out of this
AEW.
one. We're going to finish on the finisher. You're just trying to think of more wrestlers.
No, just the whole of the AEW roster. The picture of the AEW roster. Every one of them is kicked out of a finisher.
Yeah.
Insane.
So Eve Torres' finisher. Are we going with the moonsault?
It's the moonsault. And do you know it's really tough? Because back then, how many women wrestlers had a top rope finisher? I can think of one, which is Lita. Which is ironically a moonsault, and her moonsault may be the worst move off the top rope in wrestling history. And if you though, what do you mean? I went, watch it without going, oh my god, Attitude Era. She nearly dies every time. Whereas Eve's beautiful arc. It's up there with Angle's actually. It's a really, she's dead barrel straight when she goes round. She was like, I forgot, I didn't research it because I'm a really bad YouTuber. But like, she was like a jiu-jitsu artist as well as a gymnast, I think.
I didn't know that.
She had like massive, I think she's a black belt in stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was like that's why she could do kicks and stuff like that.
Oh.
So she was like really impressive. You know, she's better than like CM Punk with his jiu-jitsu skills. See it that way.
Well, we've seen
but
those.
like
in the UFC. Hey, he's in the UFC.
Hey. Me and you haven't been in the UFC.
That's true.
But I also don't want to get punched by a guy who's rubbish in the UFC. So I loved a moonsault. I think a moonsault's really good. I know it's a moonsault, so it has to get dropped down in the rankings. You can't go high for a moonsault because it's a moonsault. But it's one of the better top rope finishes from the ladies way before we got, Kairi Sane's top rope elbow and stuff like that. So I've gone with a 7. I think it's a really lovely moonsault. And I think it usually ended every match that she did.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't really get finisher kickouts in women's matches anyway,
no,
to be fair.
But that's what still means the finish gets protected.
100%. So I had a 6. I'll actually bump it up to a 7.
Because... only because you're like, I get to go higher.
No,
Yay!
Because when I was doing this, for some reason I thought it was the X Factor that she did. Because I think she did that for a while.
I think everyone has had it at some point.
That was what I had in my head. I forgot about the moonsault.
Just for future reference, if the X Factor turns up as a finishing move, it's scoring 1 from me.
Fair.
Full stop.
That's
End of story. So if you were going to
even if the technique on the X Factor,
if you were going to give it like a 6 for X Factor, we're going to have an argument because it's 1 across the board. So just bear in mind for that whenever we do that.
I'll bear that in mind.
Worst move in wrestling wrestling history.
Do you want to mention X-Pac in there? Just so
X-Pac who did it.
Yeah, just
Tori
so you
Wilson
can get
did it.
So some more wrestlers in there.
They all did it. I think it was Brie Bella's as well for a while.
I sense this is why it's got the one.
Oh, it's all. Oh.
Well, I'll go with the 7 for the moonsault.
Yeah, it's a lovely moonsault.
Yeah.
She actually, I would love to see her turned up now. I really would, because I actually think she would be a very good mid-card women's wrestler. She'd be a very good tag team. I think she would work in a really good tag team division with somebody, and I think that would be really good. So, yeah, so.
Okay, so now let's round off our total scores and combine them. Sam, what total score did you get?
A very mare 59.
59?
She just won off the mare of the mare score.
Yeah. My score is not purposeful whatsoever. It just happens to be...
No, stop it! Stop the presses! Do not make a 69 joke right now. How dare you? We're a young person's channel.
It's a 69 and that can mean anything.
That's a score of 118.
There's no subtext.
It's a score of 118, and Eve Torres is our third lady onto the women's leaderboard. Let's see where she goes. She's gone into the silver medal position behind Beth Phoenix, 118. Quite a bit of a gap, but there's a bit of a gap between her and Candice Michelle. So she is literally the mare. It's a good start at it. Beth is solid. I think Candice isn't great, and she's quite middling. So as a starting 3,
I think this technique of ranking people is very proven to be accurate.
Absolutely, we're absolutely spot on. But anyway, thank you for joining us on Eve Torres. Stone Cold, Rock, Kane, Undertaker. Thanks for like, sharing, and subscribe. I'm just ruining my own editing process here.
So you cleverly got the other names into them, and now you're just spamming names. So.
Spamming L1, finishing move. And we will see you next time. Grandmaster Sexay.